Playoffs go on, but the Texans season has ended. Where the heck do they go from here? Offseason edition officially begins. Damn.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the Locker Room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, Locker Room. Yeah, we in the Locker Room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source. We the pulse of the city too. Landlocked. Got the game in the headlock. Localize every time. Can't stop. Won't stop. Yeah. Top two and we not.
Offseason's officially begun for the Houston Texans as the playoffs go on. It is the Locker Room, number one source for Texans daily digital content. I'm Landry Locker. You can hear me Monday through Friday, 10 to 2 Central on Sports Radio 610 and the Odyssey app. That's where you'll hear DeMeco Ryans tomorrow, 10 a.m., addressing the media types after the Texans season has ended. His first year as head coach has ended. And there's a lot of reasons to be excited about this Texans team. Now that the dust has kind of settled when it comes to reacting, although we will react tomorrow, I can promise you that. You start to wonder, like, what's next for this Texans team? Like, what is the next step? What are the realistic things that the Texans can do? What free agents should they bring back? What guys should they let go? What are their biggest obstacles? All those questions. And we'll cover it throughout the offseason. If you followed this channel since the start of last year, offseason, no time off. There'll be a video every day. We'll keep it going. Now, there's no coaching search. You don't have 2 first-round picks. You probably need to fill some holes, but it is going to continue. We'll get into some of the Texans questions first, but I want to do what I think every radio host should do, and definitely what we do in here, and that is localize. I want to localize the NFL divisional round, just from like a Texans point of view, because the reality of this situation is 3 out of 4 games were 1-possession games in the fourth quarter, including the Green Bay game. They could have very easily won that game. And only one was a complete beatdown, and it was the Texans, despite being tied at half. So looking at these games and looking at the 4 winners of these games, I think it's clear that all of these teams are ahead of the Texans, and they're much further along in their process. But I think if you were to ask me to summarize the biggest reason why each team won, I think it is somewhat relatable to the Texans, and it gives you hope. I think two of these games were won because the quarterback was him, and the quarterback has battle tested. Say whatever the hell I said about Lamar Jackson. It was true heading into yesterday, but he was the reason and the main reason that Baltimore won that game against the Texans. Patrick Mahomes, you can say the same thing, although I think as far as a total effort, that was perhaps the best complete effort that Kansas City has had during this golden age. Hell, it was the first time that Mahomes had won a road playoff game. First time he'd played a road playoff game. So that speaks to that. But I think there were two examples of elite quarterbacks elevating their play. Congrats to Lamar for doing that. And winning the games. And then I think there were 2 examples of system and coaching and the better roster top to bottom winning with Detroit and San Francisco. So where do the Texans fit in that? I think obviously you look at CJ Stroud and you imagine that there can be a time where CJ Stroud is able to carry you to playoff wins like this, like gutsy divisional wins like this. And I think if you look at the system that DeMeco has implemented and the system that they've had offensively for a large portion of the year, I think you can make a case that maybe the Texans can figure out a way to do that. But that's really the biggest takeaway. Speaking of Bobby Slowik has interviewed for 3 more gigs today. I guess virtual. I guess he had these set up. He did 2 on last Thursday, Carolina and Tennessee was where he was. And I guess he had 3 today, virtual, Bobby Slowik, Commanders, Seahawks, and Falcons. So Bobby Slowik's had 5 interviews this week. Do I think that has anything to do with him calling perhaps his worst game on Saturday? No, I don't. Hell, he didn't. Maybe Baltimore just has his number. Hell, maybe Baltimore just has this system's number as a whole. But I do find it interesting that Bobby Slowik had 5 interviews this weekend and his offense only scored 3 points. It's not great. Now, credit to the Baltimore Ravens and credit to their defense and what they've been able to do, but let's not make too many excuses for the offense. Like, the bottom line is yesterday, the Houston Texans, 1 half through the game, gave their offense a clean slate and gave Bobby Slowik a chance to adjust at halftime. And offense never gave them a chance in hell. And eventually the defense just ran out of gas. But the special teams, you had a special teams touchdown. The defense was actually containing Lamar Jackson in the first half. They just ran out of steam. You saw the time of possession. So the Texans, 4 times this year, a team has failed to score a touchdown against the Baltimore Ravens on offense, and the Texans and Bobby Slowik are responsible for 2 of those performances. The other one was DTR, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and the Cleveland Browns, and then Geno Smith and the Seahawks. They didn't score a touchdown. So 2 out of 4. So 4 out of Texans have 2 out of those 4 performances, and 4 out of 18 times that has happened, and the Texans have 2 of it. So it was a bad performance by Bobby Slowik, and that's not hard to say. That's not an indictment on Bobby Slowik's entire season, but it should be easy for you to say that Bobby Slowik wasn't good yesterday. If not, what exactly are you trying to do? And we'll see how this result works. Gerard Johnson, by the way, Gerard Johnson, who was on the show last Thursday. You can go check out that interview on the Odyssey app if you'd like. Gerard Johnson was requested by Cleveland and New Orleans. Now, look, I know Gerard a little. My co-host knows him very well. Obviously, you want to climb the coaching ranks, but I think with the position that Gerard Johnson's in right now, where it seems like eventually Slowik's going to leave, it just seems like waiting around to work with CJ, whether it's seeing if Slowik takes a job this year or even just taking over for him next year. It seems a little bit more like in line with setting up your ideal 5-year plan than going to New Orleans to work with Derek Carr or going to Cleveland to work with Watson. I just don't really think that that's a smart thing. Frank says not Slowik's fault. What's not his fault? I like Slowik, but what's not his fault? That he called a crappy game yesterday? Who knows? Tony says, do you think Mike Evans signs this offseason? I mean, he's definitely going to sign. I don't know if he signs with the Texans. I mean, that's going to be like $20 million a year. He might get a 4-year deal from someone. Is that something that you would want to do? Someone might do it. There's a lot of receivers, our teams that need receivers. Alum, what the hell are people thinking saying AJ Brown to Texans isn't a good fit? CJ would cook with AJ, Nico, and Tank. Texans are the betting favorites. Yeah, I don't know why you wouldn't want AJ Brown here. I think AJ Brown's a really good player. So yeah, I don't know. I do think the Texans. I see a lot of y'all talking about running backs. I do think the Texans should take a close look at that. We'll go individual guys throughout the offseason. But I'm just going to look at the offensive free agents, the defensive free agents, special teams, and then get into like some short-term questions heading into next season and heading into this offseason. It is the Locker Room, number one source for Texans daily digital content. Be sure to subscribe, like, right along. I'm Landry Locker. You can hear me Monday through Friday, 10 to 2, Sports Radio 610, and the Odyssey app. So the offensive free agents are right here. Dalton Schultz, Devin Singletary, Noah Brown, George Fant, Dieter, Josh Jones, Dare Agumbawale, and Charlie Heck. Of those guys, which ones do I think it's crucial to sign? Really none of them. I'd like Schultz at the right price, but I would still like to bring in another like younger tight end, perhaps. I like Singletary as a committee back. If you can bring in someone else, I like the work that he did this year. As far as Noah Brown, I think you can probably, unless it's like a real like borderline minimum type of deal, you can figure that out. He just missed a lot of time. Fant, with what you're paying Titus Howard, I don't know unless he wants to be like a swing guy. And same thing with Heck. So maybe one of those guys could be your swing guy. Dieter, you actually have a lot of interior depth. How good that depth's going to be, who knows? But you got Kenyon Green coming back. You got Kendrick Green, I think, coming back. You got Juice Scruggs coming back. You got Shaq Mason coming back. You got Patterson coming back. So you actually have a lot of interior offensive line depth. And there should be a battle. I really don't think much is going to be invested on the offensive line because they've already invested so much, especially with the Titus Howard contract, which, man, good for him for getting it. But when you talk about having to perhaps say goodbye to Grenard and all that, and paying Titus like he's an elite right tackle, which I don't know. Maybe he ends up being that. That's going to be a tough one for the next few years. And I look, if he comes back and he's an elite right tackle like he's getting paid to be, that's fine. I just don't sense like the dialogue, and I'm in these Texan streets as much as anyone. I don't sense people feel like they're getting an elite right. Even the Titus supporters, the dialogue is not such to where people are talking like they're getting like an elite right tackle back next year. So we'll see. I just think when you look at that extension, man, and you look at some of the other stuff they could do, that's lofty, man. I mean, he's top 3, top 5 highest paid right tackle. And they didn't feel good about him enough about him this year to put him there. They put him at guard. He wasn't even good at guard. So we'll see how that goes. That would be really, really nice. If that contract looks smart in the next couple of days, that'd be really, really smart. Or really, really good, I should say. Defensive free agents, there's a few more of these. You have Grenard. Someone might pay him a lot. Rankins, Steven Nelson, Blake Cashman, Jerry Hughes, Denzel Perriman, Kareem Jackson, Houston Carson, Adrian Amos, Khalil Davis, Derek Barnett, Tavier Thomas, Tart, and Eric Murray. Grenard, I think you'd like to keep back. I just don't know. I don't know if they're going to be able to do it. Like when you have Will Anderson and you have an organization that is potentially going to develop guys, sometimes you got to let good players go. So the Grenard thing will be interesting. Rankins, maybe for the right price. We'll see. He provided a hell of a lot of leadership. Nelson, man, salute to Steven Nelson for the season he had. I know his body's probably needs a lot of rest. I don't know at this point. Maybe the market speaks and you bring back Steven Nelson like after he kind of dips his toe out there. But I just feel like with the quality of player that's going to want to play here, and given the fact that, you brought in Steven Nelson and got 2 really good years out of him, the roster churning, I think you can bring in guys of that caliber, but we'll see. I wouldn't be opposed to it, but I wouldn't be like overly, they have to make this happen. Cashman, again, the health is an issue. I feel like they like him. I could see Cashman coming back here, maybe test the market. But Cashman, I think, probably bring him back. Hughes, he's got to be close to retirement. I don't know about Jerry. I know he was a big part of the leadership of this squad. I don't know what he wants to do. Perriman, I take it or leave it. Same thing as the Nelson thing. K-Jack, I think that was just a one-year thing. Houston Carson, he's actually 30. Like, he's been in the league for a while. So Houston Carson, I liked what he did. Like, maybe if he wanted to come back in like a reserve role, that's fine. But I think you probably need to upgrade the safety position as a whole. Amos, that was a midseason type of signing. Khalil Davis, wouldn't mind it. Barnett, for the right price, wouldn't mind it. Tavier Thomas, bye. Good dude, but bye. Tart, yeah, I don't know how he fits in. And then Murray, God, I'm surprised he's still here. Eric Murray, to say the very least. Special teams, damn, this is all of it. I mean, and keep in mind, this is the top special teams unit in the league the last couple of years. But you got Johnston, Fairbairn, and Weeks. Hey, I'd bring them all back. It's probably going to be a one-year deal with Weeks. Actually made a play yesterday. I don't think he had a bad snap this year. There was the one missed extra point where there was like some nitpicking. But I don't think it was a bad snap. So if John Weeks wants to come back and they want to bring him back for a year, perhaps. Fairbairn, he's fine. He missed a field goal yesterday. You could bring back Fairbairn a couple years. And the thing about paying a kicker is they're making a few $1 million. They're extremely important when you have them. It can ruin your season when you don't. And if you want to move on from them, it's not like moving on from a wide receiver that you have under contract or a tight end or whatever. It's a few $1 million if they decide to. So I would bring back Fairbairn, and I damn sure would bring back Cam Johnston. I mean, my God, bring him back all damn day, please. That would be great. Very, 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 very great. Kool-Aid worthy Saquon, Connor Williams offseason. I'm all about Saquon. I think they need to I think they need running backs on this squad. I think they need to start taking the running back position serious. I think the running back can make the offensive line better. I think the offensive line can get more cohesive. I think a lot of times people try to sound smart by saying, hey, it doesn't matter. It's all about the blocking up front. Man, you don't. I mean, obviously it is, but the running back can make the blocking better. I mean, it's the same thing that was being said when Dameon Pierce was running the rock earlier. And God bless Dameon Pierce. I hope Dameon Pierce comes back next year ready to go. He said this is a really good learning lesson for him. So maybe he comes back and, he's one of your third back or whatever, and he can provide some other stuff. But it's time to take the running back position serious, because as soon as you took Pierce out and you put Singletary there, the offensive line looked better. Like, this notion that a running back can't make an offensive line look better, it's hardos trying to act like they know what's going on in the trenches and just saying stuff just to say it. It's the O-line. Yeah, no kidding. Like, it's a total thing. I don't feel great about this O-line either. They're not touching the O-line, though. They've got the highest paid left tackle in the league. They've got a top 5 highest paid right tackle. I think Shaq Mason is top 12 at guard. They just used a second-round pick on Juice Scruggs. They have a first-round pick in Kenyon Green, and they have a bunch of reserve guys behind them. So they're not investing in the offensive line. Obviously, they need to block better. But if you think it's okay to have one running back, who, by the way, Buffalo moved on from, that only one running back that's capable of making plays for you, that's ridiculous. No other team in the NFL really has like that ridiculous of a thing. And if they do, no disrespect, it's a better quality back than Singletary. But we're seeing it all over the place. They need multiple running backs. There's not a running back worth taking in the first round. This isn't a Gibbs year or anything like that. But day 2, day 3, sign one of these big name guys. They're going to be cheap based on the impact that they make you. People aren't paying running backs. Take full advantage of that. Whether it's Saquon, whether it's Jacobs, whether it's Eckler, whichever one you like all these guys, Saquon, Jacobs, Eckler, Derrick Henry, like whoever. You give that what they can do for you. It's a bargain at this point because teams are not paying running backs. So go ahead and invest in that running back. Make it happen. Draft one, bring one in. Got to do something. How would DJ Reader be back in Houston? I mean, they should have never let him go in the first place. That was, I mean, they pretty much gave his money to who? Whitney Merciless or something. That was unnecessary. But I don't know. I don't know how DJ Reader fits into what they do. But as far as needs, they can really upgrade in every area. They're not touching the offensive line. They're not touching the offensive line. There might be some like mid-round draft picks. There might be some guys that come in and surprise, but it's pretty much set for better or worse. Is Titus Howard a really, really good right tackle? We'll see. Laramie Tunsil, he had a really good year. I know a lot of y'all are kind of pissed at him. I saw him getting in like some sort of weird back and forth on Twitter, which it felt like he would be above. And I'm not saying that as like disrespect to the other two people involved. I know Barrett talked to him a little bit. I just like to search your name and like talk crap to someone on Twitter after yesterday's performance. It just doesn't seem, even if you smashed, it just seems kind of weird to me. That doesn't make a lot of sense. But the offensive line kind of got off in the weeds there. But the offensive line, they're not touching. They can't. That's where they're at. Tight end, yeah, they got to look at that. Do they want to bring back Dalton Schultz? I would bring back Dalton Schultz and bring in a young tight end. Why not? What's he going to get? 10 million? I think 3 years, 30 is what I saw the projection was. Sure. Although those drops in the playoffs were kind of discouraging, especially given how bad his final performance in Dallas was. But yeah, tight end, look at that. Running back, good God, please. Wide receiver, yes. Bring in as many wide receivers as possible. Don't assume that Nico and Tank are going to have better years next year. You did that with Dameon Pierce. Get as many wide receivers as possible. You can't have too many. So figure out the wide receiver situation. Bring in as many as you can. The more, the merrier. Cornerback, yes, you need to figure something out. They've actually done a decent job of doing that. They did a good job with Steven Nelson, so they'll have to look into that. Although Derek Stingley has established himself as a CB1, that's one of the most encouraging things. You know, this isn't like the jury's still out. He took a huge step this year. So you have CB1 and Derek Stingley. Safety position, my God, please upgrade that. Whee, man. It's going to be a big year for Jalen Petrie next year. I would love to see him bounce back this year. And I think, you know, he's going to put in the appropriate amount of work. DeMeco likes him enough. He's going to be motivated. But, man, that was one of the more disappointing seasons that I've seen in a long time. Like, when you talk about what the expectations were, DeMeco shouted him out at his damn press conference. Keep doing what you're doing, Jalen. 5 interceptions, 0 this year. Couple of opportunities yesterday. I don't know if he's a good blitzer. I'm sure like all the know-it-all tape guys will say, oh, you know, he's doing what he needs to do. He's picking up his guy. Man, I don't know. Kind of feels like he just gets swallowed up every time on the blitz. I mean, the one time that he didn't, Bryce Young spun off of him and whoop, right to Thielen. One of the worst losses of the year. But we'll see what happens with Jalen Petrie. It's going to be a big opportunity for him, but I definitely think you need to upgrade the safety position. Linebacker, man, I'm looking forward to seeing what Christian Harris does next. There was talk about, DeMeco Ryans being able to turn him around and increase his upside. He's been playing linebacker for 5 years. He did his thing. I mean, he did his thing, and there were times where you looked at that and said, "Man, that guy's a hell of a ball player." I'm very excited to see what he has. Does Jimmy Ward come back? Perhaps. If he wants to, then why not? But I don't think you can depend on that. You might want to bring in someone young. But Christian Harris was good. Linebacker, hell, if there's an elite linebacker in the first round of the draft and DeMeco wants a backer, go get you a backer. Backer, receiver. They can really go best player available, except I don't anticipate them looking O-line or QB. But anything else, just bring in what you can bring in. But good for Harris. D end, we'll see how that goes. Obviously, you got Will Anderson. Keep an eye on that. Interior D line. Do they bring back Rankins? Who knows? There's some decent depth there. What is elite on the Texans right now? So heading into next year, what do you feel that the Texans are elite at? I would say potentially quarterback. I mean, there's no reason to not believe that. Cornerback one. I think Derek Stingley is elite. And then maybe Will Anderson could be elite next year. I could see Will Anderson taking the next step. I could see you having an elite edge guy next year and building off what he did this year. I could easily see that. So I would say Stroud, Stingley, Anderson, and then maybe Cam Johnston. Maybe Cam Johnston, punter. I know I'm reaching there. I'm going in the sticks, but that's what I would say is elite. Laramie Tunsil's very good. But I'm like, as far as elite, that would be my answer. What has the most upside? In other words, what could take the biggest jump next year to where we feel real excited about it and feel like it could be, top 10-ish or something. I could see the O-line once they get more cohesive, and it better because they think Titus Howard's an elite right tackle. With all the depth that you have, if Titus Howard is what they think he is, and he gets as good at playing as he does at like searching his name on Twitter, then hey, all bets are off with this O-line. This O-line could be elite. I think Christian Harris belongs on this list. I think Will Anderson belongs on this list. And I would think that those are the things that have potentially the most upside next year, where we're talking about taking that next step. What is looking to bounce back, like on this Texans team? What is looking to bounce back the most in 2024? I would say Tank Dell. Not because he wasn't balling out, but obviously, going through what he's had to go through. Tank Dell, Jalen Petrie. I don't know if Jalen Petrie's playing for a roster spot. I don't think we've gotten to that point, but Jalen Petrie's going to need to have a good year next year. Kenyon Green. What is Kenyon Green going to look like? What's he going to be? Is he going to take that starting spot? Is he going to be a backup? Could he be cut? Who knows? Keep an eye on Kenyon Green. What does that look like? Because you got Patterson and you got Juice Scruggs. Those guys showed that they were capable of being quality starters. Kenyon Green, up to this point, 2 years in the league, only 1 year on the field. He hasn't done that yet. So keep an eye on Kenyon Green. He's going to have a lot to prove next year. Titus Howard, you got paid, and you're perhaps going to get to play the position that they feel that you're best at and you feel that you're best at. So Titus Howard. And really that's all I can think of as far as like the make or breaks. Basically like the Mechie too. Mechie too is going to have to figure something out. But basically the same thing that we were saying about Brevin Jordan this year. And that Brevin Jordan said himself, this was a year where I had to prove myself. He actually feared that he was going to get cut, made a few plays, found his spot. They believed in him. I think that's kind of like the same situation that Green and Mechie find themselves in. I don't see any scenario where they get rid of Petrie. He's too hard of a worker. He's too valuable of a player. If they find a role for him, I think Petrie's going to be in the NFL for a long time. But as far as being like a quality starting safety, look, last year he gave you a lot of reason for optimism. This year he kind of evened it out with doubt, and that's why you don't give up on players too early. So we'll see how that works with Jalen Petrie. He's going to have a lot to prove. And same thing with Mechie, man. Like, I watched Steven Sims in 3 games. Steven Sims had the 22-yard catch in his first one, and yesterday he had that special teams touchdown. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun. Terrible loss yesterday that we'll get into on In the Loop, Sports Radio 610. And then we'll look ahead. We'll hear from DeMeco at 10, and all throughout the year we will have videos. I don't go away. Y'all know that. Since the start of last year, I don't go away. You can hear me 4 hours a day on Sports Radio 610 and about an hour or more right here. Sometimes a little bit less. Appreciate you for coming through. Subscribe, like, right along. It has been a fun time, and we'll see how this whole thing goes. No matter what happens, though, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. Thanks for coming through.
Yeah, it's the Locker Room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, Locker Room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source. We the pulse of the city too. Landlocked. Got the game in the headlock. Localize every time. Can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top 2 and we not too. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days, opinions to give, we got takeaways. If it's up, then it's up, we number 1. You don't need to try your luck. Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the